Surviving the therapy crisis from output to infrastructure. Welcome to this explainer. You entered this profession because you care, right? Today, we're looking directly at the unspoken exhaustion that so many of you are facing right now. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how you can fundamentally restructure your career so you don't just survive, but actually thrive. You genuinely believed that skilled hands, careful observation, knowledge, and compassion could literally change lives. And over the years, you've seen that they absolutely do. You've watched people walk again without pain, you've seen athletes return to peak competition, and you've helped individuals get their identity back after years of suffering. But alongside all those profound successes, there's something far quieter and honestly much heavier happening. A profession built entirely upon endless output eventually consumes its own people. Let that sink in for a second. If you're a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a massage therapist, or a chiropractor, you know exactly what this means. It's the unspoken reality of the clinic floor. It's this heavy truth that you carry around every single day. Which really brings us to a stark, deeply personal question. Are you helping, or are you just surviving? I want to say this incredibly clearly, directly to you right now. If you feel like your career has gradually shifted away from helping others heal to just merely surviving the week, that is not a personal feeling. You aren't weak. In fact, these professions attract highly empathetic, highly driven individuals who just naturally absorb enormous amounts of responsibility. What you're experiencing is a shared systemic reality. It's happening everywhere. Okay, let's dive into this. The unspoken therapy crisis. So what exactly is driving this? Well, the reality is that the accumulation of this pressure almost never happens dramatically. It creeps up on you. It happens quietly, over years of small, heavy moments. It's one difficult patient, one missed lunch break, one emotionally draining conversation that you just couldn't shake, one late-night report, one more week of carrying massive responsibility without adequate recovery time. Literally every single day, you're making thousands of small decisions with incomplete information. You're working inside constant uncertainty, and man, that takes a profound toll on a person. And these quiet burdens, they take a few very specific forms. First up, emotional fatigue. You are constantly absorbing distress. You're holding responsibility for outcomes, managing pain, fear, failure, hope, and expectation every single day. Then there's the constant self-employment pressure, carrying the administrative burden, the legal responsibility, and just the sheer instability of relying entirely upon yourself. And finally, poor pay relative to the effort. You spend years physically loading yourself while simultaneously trying to reduce the load carried by everyone else. It's just an incredible weight to carry on your shoulders. Ultimately, this points to a completely flawed, exhausting system. Think about the profound paradox here for a second. You spend your entire life helping others adapt to pressure, yet the system offers virtually zero support for you in adapting to pressure yourself. It's crazy, right? You help patients recover from overload while quietly accumulating this massive overload of your own. You teach regulation while living in dysregulation. You preach recovery, but you're forgetting how to recover yourself. Caring so deeply, without proper structure and boundaries, it eventually becomes dangerous. And this brilliantly illustrates the strange contradiction sitting right at the heart of the therapy professions. On one side, the system frequently rewards visibility, high volume, and constant marketing. But on the flip side, it largely ignores wisdom, depth, and raw mastery. You could spend 20 years refining your clinical reasoning, mastering biomechanics, diving deep into pain science, and you might still struggle financially. Why? Because being clinically exceptional doesn't automatically translate into business success when the model solely rewards your hourly output. Because of this massive disconnect, we are facing an absolute industry-wide crisis right now, the early leaving majority. Across healthcare, rehabilitation, and manual therapy, the loss of brilliant, empathetic practitioners is frankly staggering. So many highly experienced practitioners just quietly disappear from the profession altogether. And when they leave, they take decades of irreplaceable knowledge right out the door with them. This is an urgent loss because, let's face it, much of the most valuable clinical understanding isn't written in a textbook. It exists in your lived pattern recognition and your subtle day-to-day observations. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the actual data behind all this burnout. The average attrition rates before practitioners leave intensive hands-on practice are incredibly revealing. Massage therapists? Often they last just 3 to 8 years. Physiotherapists in private practice, many are leaving intensive clinical work within 5 to 10 years. And chiropractors and osteopaths are showing similar, really significant attrition right in that first decade. So listen, if you're struggling right now, if you're feeling like you absolutely cannot sustain this pace forever, take an enormous sigh of relief. You are not alone. The timeline of exhaustion is practically built into the current business model.
What this clearly reveals is that there are really two professions hiding inside one here. On the left side, we have the early leavers. They're exiting within 3 to 10 years due to the physical wear and tear, compassion fatigue, and this endless cycle of giving without recovery. But on the right side, we have the long-term survivors. These are the folks who stay for 20, 30, or even 40 plus years. This right here is the stark fork in the road for your career. Which path are you going to be on?
Let's take a closer look at those long-term survivors. How do they actually do it? Well, here is the secret. They don't survive by simply working harder physically. There's no way. They rarely continue operating exactly as they started out. The practitioners who last for decades, they fundamentally adapt how they operate. They evolve. And the therapists who do last, they adapt in a few very specific ways. Number one, they reduce their treatment volume and they become way more selective. Second, they step into teaching and mentoring. And third, they build systems, education, and frameworks. They realize that true clinical mastery eventually has to evolve beyond brute force physical output if it's going to remain sustainable. Simply put, they start using their brains way more than their bodies to generate value. Let's move to and see how this builds into the ultimate blueprint for career longevity, building intellectual infrastructure. This is the ultimate solution, folks. This is the monumental shift from purely being a hands-on clinician to becoming an educator, a mentor, a system builder, or a framework developer.
There are two fundamental steps to making this transition. Step one, stop trading body hours for income. Your physical capacity has a hard limit, and your body should absolutely not be the bottleneck for your earning potential. Step two, start building intellectual infrastructure. Remember, your lived pattern recognition, the subtle observations you've accumulated across thousands of unique cases, your deep understanding of compensation and recovery, these are irreplaceable assets. You have to start extending that knowledge beyond just direct one-on-one treatment. So what does this intellectual infrastructure actually look like in the real world? Well, it takes the form of rehab generators and predictive systems that actually reflect the real complexity of recovery. It looks like education and mentorship programs built for younger clinicians who desperately need your guidance so they can avoid their own burnout. It becomes books, frameworks, and practical practitioner tools. Building these systems solves major structural problems in our industry. It reduces practitioner isolation, and honestly, most importantly, it doesn't replace the human practitioner with some algorithm. It actually supports the practitioner. It allows your expertise to reach way, way beyond the four walls of your individual treatment room. So the crucial point is this. We simply cannot afford to lose the very people who have spent their lives trying to help others heal. Your knowledge is worth so much more than just hourly treatment time. It's time to rethink your legacy. It's time to create the structures that allow you to continue helping others without completely destroying yourself in the process. Will your wisdom disappear with you, or will you build a system to preserve it?